welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about first year of medical school. So obviously if you're watching this or just want to have a little bit more information about first year of medical school, or you're just starting, congratulations and welcome. I know you're super excited, nervous, kind of want to pee in yourself. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I felt all those things too. So I have a couple of notes that we're going to be into, a couple questions that people have asked me about how was my first year, what are some of the things that I did, and just so you don't make the same mistakes that I did, okay? So I started in August 2016, and at that time we were in Dominica. After Hurricane Maria, Ross was relocated to Barbados. So this is August 2016 versus now, when now we have a COVID pandemic that everybody's online across the globe. So it's a lot different, but even though it's a different place and a different time, the coursework and probably not going to change. Well, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have my little notes that I've been taking so I can stay on task because I have so many things going on with ERAS opening today, so my brain's a little bit all over the place right now. So basically, we came in a week prior to our start date, and we did orientation for about a week. And when I first walked into orientation, I was a little overwhelmed because it was a lot of students. Like, I've never seen that many students in a classroom. So I was a little overwhelmed with that, but you know, I called my parents and it was fine. Those are like my therapist, honestly. I called my parents and my family just to cause you know, like, it's a little different. You're not going to across the street to start medical school. You're starting in a whole new country. It's far away from home. You don't know anybody or anything. So that part was a little hard, and I think it didn't really hit me, maybe so, until I actually got there in orientation. I was like, it's a lot of people, and I'm here too. But everything turned out fine. You're gonna be fine, don't worry. So after orientation, we started school that following Monday, and at that time, I just kind of wanted to get a feel of, you know, what kind of learner that I am, because the learner that you were in college is not the same as going to be in medical school. I'm telling you right now, like, it's not the same. The course load is a lot. And you know that saying when they say, like, it's a person standing in front of a fire hose and you're standing with your mouth wide open? Yeah, it's exactly like that. That is the best saying anybody has came up with, because that's exactly what it feels like. So the first week for me was really about adjusting and figuring how I learn, you know, getting used to being in a whole different being in a whole different country and things of that nature, and trying to figure out if I want to go to class or do I want a media site. So some people go to class and some people media site. I'm not sure what it's called now. I think it's called Panopto, but basically it's just recorded lectures that you can watch like 10 minutes after the end of the live class. So say for instance, you have a class from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So the recording will be post basically at 9, 10, or 10 o'clock. So you'll basically be an hour behind everyone else. So when I first started, I was going to class and I was like, this class is not working for me. It was not working for me. I was getting it wasn't absorbing. Like, I was not absorbing anything. So I said, you know what? For the first 2 days, I said, okay, I'm going to try class. And then if I like it, I'm going to stay. If I don't like it, then I'm not going to stay. So I tried it for like the first 2 days and I was not absorbing anything. And at that time, Monday, Tuesday, that was already 8 lectures. So I was already freaking out because medical school moves fast and you have to be able to retain that information. So I decided that I was going to do media site. So I did media site. So after I did media site, basically We had, what subjects were we doing? We were doing biochem, we were doing anatomy, we were doing physiology, and we did embryology later on in the semester. So we had our first exam, and honey, I went to that exam like, I got this, I can do this. And when I left that exam, I was like, okay, so we got work to do. And of course, when I got that exam back, it was a good old flat 69. And so how Ross does it, like after you fail an exam, they're gonna send you out to academic teaching and learning, which is short for basically ATL. And they will try to see what happened with the exam, like what were some of the strategies that you were doing on the exam, and they'll give you better strategies, and they'll also tell you about their tutors. So I went and met with ATL. I also signed up for a tutor. So after I signed up for a tutor and I found out better ways to help me learn, because I found out that I'm a little bit more, I like to see it and I also like to write it. And that took a little bit of time. So I would just say be patient with yourself, because it is a lot of information and you're going to a new place. And at this time, you're not going to a new place, you're actually staying at your house, but it's just a lot of information. You just kind of want to just see how it goes at first, because you need to figure out what works best for you or what works best for Sherry. And that's exactly what I did. So after I took some of their strategies as well as a tutor, and I actually found a group of tutors that I really connected with on a personal level, that are actually they're all super smart and they're all physicians now, that tutored me basically from first semester all the way up to my last semester. That's how I got through it. I used a tutor and I changed the way I was studying. So some of the things that I learned was, of course, the strategies of how to learn. The classroom was not working for me. I had to use MediaSite, and MediaSite allows you to pause, allows you to rewind, like what did the teacher say? I have to hear things a couple times before it sinks in, and that's just me. I don't have look at something one time and it just sinks in your head and I know how to treat heart failure by looking at it one time. That does not work for me. So basically what I did is I had my iPad that I purposely bought for just medical school purposes, but I know Ross now, they provide you with an iPad as well as an Apple Pencil, but at that time they weren't. So I went ahead and bought myself an iPad, as well as I had my laptop. So I had my laptop right here and I had my iPad here. So what I did is when I was in MediaSite, I would play a little bit, and I would play it until I needed to look up something. Like say for instance, we're going over glycolysis. So if he's talking about glycolysis, I play it and I pause it, and guess what I bring out? This step 1 book. So I would, as he was talking about glycolysis, I would go and I would go to the glycolysis portion. So as you can see, I had a lot of notes in this step 1 book that I still reference to, and I would just read along with it as well as the notes. And then after I looked at this, I signed up on USMLE RX 360, which you'll see in the front of this book. If you're a visual learner, they have flashcards, they have videos that actually go through this entire book. They have videos that go to this entire book, as well as practice questions. So after I would watch a little bit, pause, pull out that book, step 1 book, figure out if anything else that I could use to help me understand, finish the lecture, I would then marinate a little bit, and then I would do practice questions. So where do I get these practice questions from? And if you really want to know if you know something, do practice questions. The professor gives you practice questions, and I also would recommend getting pre-test. So I use pre-test for basically each subject, and they will do it. Let me open it up. And they have it in each section, how many questions and how many pages, and they break it down by section. So say for it's glycolysis, then you go to carbohydrate metabolism from pages 117 to 131, and you do the questions. So I did the pre-test questions as well as the questions that the professor gave us. And if they had any on the USMLE RX 360, I did those as well. So basically, I did tutoring. I went to Media Site. I used USMLE RX questions. I used biochem pre-test questions, and I watched USMLE RX videos. At that time, osmosis wasn't as big as it is now, so they didn't have that much that they did, but I did use that from time to time, and I do recommend them. And I'm a visual learner, so that really helped me. But that are some things that I did, and after I did that, my grades start going up. Like, they just start going up. The other question was how to schedule your day. So how I scheduled my day, since I was in a media site, it was a lot easier for me to schedule my day. So what I did was, at that time, they had a library. I would go to the library at about 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. And then I would read while I was waiting for the recordings for that day to start. I was watching the previous day. So say for instance, we don't have class on today, which is Tuesday, until 10 o'clock a.m. So from about 7:30 to 10 o'clock a.m., I watch previous lectures doing the same thing that I implemented. So if I was watching glycolysis, I was pulling out my USMLE book, and I was pulling out my pre-test questions if I still need to finish them, and I was also doing the questions on USMLE RX 360. So I would do that prior to the first lecture to start. So I watched the first lectures after they were recorded, because remember, I don't go to class. I do media site or Panopto, whatever they call it now. So I would do that, watch whatever lectures that they had for that day, and if I was waiting for the next lecture, I would watch the previous lecture from the previous day. So I was constantly doing new material and reviewing old, reviewing old. And that's another key in first semester when you're starting out. You're gonna be getting a lot of new information, like bang, 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 bang. But at the same time, you have to review that material. So that's the way that I did it. And I did it, I just kept going, new material back, new material back, new material back. And that's what I did. And so I basically did that all the way up to about 12 o'clock. And about 12 o'clock, I ate lunch from about 12 to 1, call and check on my parents and my family, because I mean, it's a huge time difference. And I would call to talk to them. And then about 1 o'clock, I was starting waiting on the next lecture to start, and then I would just review some of the old lectures and then wait for the new recording to start. I forgot to mention this, but when I was studying, I did the 60-minute and 10-minute break. So I would study for 60 minutes and then I would take a 10-minute break. And then after I would watch the new recordings, by that time it was probably like 4 or 5 o'clock. So at that time, I've been up for about 8 hours. So I take another break for dinner, and then at that time, I would probably most likely be going to my tutor, because they do usually like around the nighttime. So I would go to my tutor from like 5 to 7 or 5 to 8, and around like, I would say like before 9 o'clock, I would slowly start winding down. And I would basically start, because at that time it's been 10-12 hours, and I would just start winding down my day and figuring out, well, what part did I end at today so I can pick up on the next day. And so I would get home and in the bed around probably 9:30, 10. So it's a long day. Some people, what they'll do is they like to work out. I didn't work out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not work out. My work, because I lived at the very top of the hill, so that was my workout, going up and down that hill every day. I didn't work out. Some people worked out early in the morning or at night before they went to sleep. For me, my stress reliever or making time for myself was mainly on Sundays. I would go to church and I would hang out with my friends. And I also picked up on a little bit of yoga. So I would just put my yoga mat. I start putting my yoga mat out in every morning and do yoga before I started my day. And let me see if anything else. Study groups versus no groups. Okay, study groups versus no study groups. Okay, so study groups can be good. They can be good, but you need to figure out if y'all are gonna be actually serious. Like if you're gonna be playing around and kikiing and talking about what y'all did last night or who's talking to who or what happened on celebrity.com, no, then I would not say do a study group. I personally did not do study groups. I just did a group of people who we were just studying together, but we weren't studying together. We were just studying at the same time in the same place. So that would really work for me. I think it's just based off you. If you want to study with other people, sometimes that can be a little distracting. And I was already going to tutoring, so that was more so of my study group, was basically interacting with my tutor or some things, or talking out some biochem or talking out some physiology with my tutor. Oh, speaking of that, one other thing that I use for physiology is BRS Physiology. That will get you through. BRS Physiology is a really good resource. If you still don't understand what the professor is saying, I would buy BRS Physiology. You could easily get it off Amazon for like $20, $30. The next question is flashcards versus no flashcards. It just all depends on what I was saying before, is what kind of learner are you? What kind of learner is Sherry? Sherry is visual and Sherry likes to write things out. So what Sherry has, which is right over here, which I will show you actually, I have a huge board that I use all the time. I just cleaned it off, but I use it all the time. I like to see it and I like to write it. So some of the things that Ross implemented, if you can teach it, you know it. Teach one and you know it, teach one. Because that's what I did. I would teach myself, teach my tutor after I went over something. So that, it just really depends on how you work best. Like if you don't want to use a whiteboard and you just want to use flashcards and that's your way of going through and remembering things. Some people use Anki. I wasn't a fan of Anki because I don't like flashcards, but a lot of people love Anki because it's basically a flashcard system that will allow you to look at cards for a certain amount of time, and then you pick basically red, yellow, green. Do you know it or do you not know it? And then it has this little algorithm that would do it in 2 days or 7 days, and so it keeps you on your toes. But I don't like flashcards, so that didn't work for me. So I had to basically form my own algorithm, which is what I talked about before. Basically doing new material, going back over material, going over new material, going back over old material, and implementing that with my step 1 book. So that is basically all the questions that you guys have sent to me, and that's all the questions that I can think of that I would want to know. But just remember that you got into medical school, you can do it. It's gonna be hard. You're away from your family, you're gonna miss birthdays, you're gonna miss some important time in your life, and you're gonna be spending a lot of money. But the flip side of that is that you can do it. You can do it. Anything you put your mind to, you can do it. Like my dad says all the time, positive thinking, positive outcome. And if you think you can do it, you can do it. So I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.